Hey guys, tonight we are diving headfirst into a story that starts with something you've probably seen 100 times, the simple, almost boring flash of police lights in a rearview mirror. But this isn't just any traffic stop. This is a stop where the air itself feels heavy, charged with secrets. Imagine a desolate highway at dusk, the sky bleeding from orange to deep purple, and a single police cruiser pulling over a nondescript sedan. Inside that sedan is a man whose heart is hammering against his ribs, not because of a ticket, but because of what's hidden just inches beneath his feet. This is one of those stories that reminds you that the most monumental discoveries often begin with the smallest of details. And I have to warn you, you probably shouldn't be listening to this alone. The shadows in your room might start to look a little different by the end. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's your support that keeps these late night sessions going. When you're done, drop a comment with your city and what time it is where you are. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing Officer Miller notices is the crack. It's a spider web of fractured red plastic on the driver's side taillight of the gray sedan ahead of him. It's minor. Most cops on most nights wouldn't even bother. But tonight, the highway is a long, dark ribbon of asphalt, and boredom is a powerful motivator. So he flips on the lights. The blue and red strobes flash silently, painting the trees on the roadside in jarring, rhythmic bursts. The sedan pulls over dutifully, its tires crunching on the gravel shoulder. There's no hesitation, no sudden swerve. It's a textbook traffic stop. Miller radios in the plate, his voice a calm monotone that betrays none of the mild anticipation he feels. The plates come back clean, registered to a rental company out of state. Normal enough. He grabs his flashlight, steps out of the cruiser, and the humid evening air wraps around him like a warm, damp blanket. As he approaches the window, his senses are on high alert. The car is a decade-old model, tired and unassuming, with one hubcap missing and a faint patina of road grime. Yet as the driver rolls down the window, Miller sees a stark contradiction. The man behind the wheel is wearing a pristine, high-end athletic tracksuit. The fabric has that telltale sheen of something expensive, untouched by time or hardship. It's the kind of outfit you see on celebrities, not on a man driving a car that looks like it's one pothole away from retirement. That's the first dissonant note in what should be a simple symphony. "Good evening, sir," Miller says, his flashlight beam cutting a clean cone of light into the car's interior, careful not to shine it directly in the driver's face. The driver, a man in his late 30s with neatly trimmed hair and a face that seems scrubbed clean of any expression, offers a polite, almost practiced smile. "No, officer, I can't say that I do." His voice is smooth, level, too level. It's the kind of calm you have to work at. "You've got a cracked taillight, sir. Just wanted to make you aware of it." The driver's eyes flick to the rearview mirror, then back to Miller. "Oh, gosh, I had no idea. It's a rental. You know how it is." He chuckles, but the sound doesn't reach his eyes. His hands are gripping the steering wheel at 10 and 2, his knuckles a shade paler than the rest of his skin. That's Miller takes the documents. He notices the driver's hand. It's perfectly steady, no nervous tremor. This, ironically, is more suspicious than a case of the shakes. Most innocent people are a little rattled during a traffic stop. This man's composure feels like a performance. He's playing a role, and he's played it before. Back in his cruiser, Miller runs the name, John Smith. No wants, no warrants, a clean record. Everything is checking out, but his gut is screaming that something is wrong. This is the moment where the law gets, well, fuzzy. It's called a pretextual stop. An officer uses a minor, legitimate traffic violation, like a cracked taillight, as a pretext to investigate a hunch, a gut feeling that something more serious is afoot. It's a contentious legal tool. The Supreme Court has upheld it, arguing that an officer's motive doesn't matter as long as the initial stop was lawful. But critics argue it's a legal loophole that can lead to profiling and unnecessary intrusions. For Officer Miller, sitting in the humming silence of his car, it's not a debate. It's a decision. He could write a warning and send Mr. Smith on his way. It's the easy path. But that tracksuit in that car, that unnerving stillness, it's a puzzle he can't leave unsolved. He walks back to the sedan. "Mr. Smith," he begins, handing back the license. "Where are you headed this evening?" "Just driving through," the man says, the practiced smile reappearing. "Visiting my aunt up north. She's not doing so well." The story is a little too perfect, a little too cliché. And then he sees it. The driver's tell. A tiny muscle in his jaw, just below his ear, begins to pulse. A frantic tiny rhythm under the skin. A Morse code of pure, uncut anxiety. It's an involuntary betrayal, a crack in the carefully constructed dam of his composure. That's it. That's all Miller needed. "All right, sir. I'm just going to issue a warning for the light," Miller says, keeping his tone friendly. The driver visibly relaxes. "I do have one more question for you, though. Is there anything illegal in the vehicle? Any weapons, large amounts of cash, any narcotics?" The smile vanishes. "No, officer. Of course not." The denial is instant, automatic. "Would you have any objection to me searching your vehicle then?" The air goes still. The crickets in the nearby grass seem to fall silent. I don't consent to any searches, officer," the driver says, his voice now tight. Miller nods slowly. He expected that. "No problem, sir. Just stay put for me." He walks back to his cruiser, his mind racing. He doesn't have probable cause to search, but the driver's nervousness, the odd details, the refusal, it's enough to create reasonable suspicion, and reasonable suspicion is all he needs for the next step. He picks up his radio. "Dispatch, can you send the K9 unit to my location?" Up in the sedan, the man who calls himself John Smith watches in his rear-view mirror. His one mistake wasn't the cracked taillight. It was a tiny pulsing muscle in his jaw. And now, a dog is on the way. A dog that can smell things a human can't. A dog that can sniff out the truth.
The wait is a special kind of torment. For Officer Miller, it's a calculated pause in a chess match. For the man in the sedan, it's an eternity. Every tick of his car's clock is a hammer blow against his composure. The flashing police lights are no longer just a visual annoyance. They're a beacon, a signal to the universe that his carefully constructed world is about to be torn apart. He stares at the rearview mirror, but he's not really seeing the cruiser. He's seeing the end of a road he's been on for a very long time. In a desperate, bizarre attempt to anchor himself, he starts humming. It's a faint, tuneless melody, a nursery rhyme perhaps, warped by the tension in his throat. It's a sound so profoundly out of place that Miller, watching from his car, feels a fresh chill despite the humid air. This isn't the behavior of an innocent man annoyed by a delay. It's the sound of someone trying to keep the monsters at bay by singing them a lullaby. 10 minutes later, another set of headlights appears, growing steadily in the distance. The K9 unit. The driver's humming stops abruptly. His hands, which had relaxed slightly, are now welded to the steering wheel again. The second cruiser pulls up behind Miller. The officer who steps out is leaner, all sharp angles and efficiency. This is Officer Davis, a man who seems to communicate more with his dog than with other humans. And then comes the dog itself, Rico, a Belgian Malinois, a creature of pure, focused energy. He emerges from the car not with a friendly tail wag, but with a taut, professional stillness, his eyes locked onto his handler, awaiting a command. The clicking of his nails on the pavement is the only sound besides the thrum of the idling engines. Miller briefs Davis quickly. The mismatched car and clothes, the rental, the feigned calm, the pulsing jaw muscle, the refusal to consent. Davis just nods, his gaze fixed on the gray sedan. "Let's see what Rico thinks," he says. This next step is a carefully choreographed piece of legal theater known as a free air sniff. The Supreme Court, in the case of Illinois v. Cabales, decided that a dog sniffing the outside of your car during a lawful stop isn't technically a search under the Fourth Amendment. The logic is that you have no reasonable expectation of privacy in the air around your car, and a trained dog only alerts to the scent of illegal contraband, something you have no right to possess in the first place. Of course, a dog's nose doesn't need a warrant, and that's a fact that has put a lot of people behind bars. Davis leads Rico towards the sedan. "Sir," Davis calls out to the driver, his voice flat and authoritative, "please remain in your vehicle with your hands on the steering wheel." The driver, John Smith, doesn't move a muscle. He just stares forward, his face a pale mask in the strobing lights. The performance is over. All that's left is raw, primal fear. Rico begins his work. Davis gives a quiet command, and the dog starts at the front bumper, his nose twitching, vacuuming in every scent molecule. He moves with a methodical grace, his body low to the ground. He circles the car once, counterclockwise. Nothing. He passes the driver's side door, his wet nose just inches from the man whose fate hangs on the next few seconds. Still nothing. The driver allows himself a flicker of hope. Maybe the containers are as good as the salesman promised. Maybe the faint scent of the cheap pine tree air freshener hanging from the mirror is doing its job. But then Davis starts the second pass, this time clockwise. Rico is more agitated now. His tail, which had been neutral, is now rigid. He sniffs along the passenger side, past the front door, and then he stops. He stops dead at the rear passenger door. His head cocks, his ears pivot forward. He whines, a low, guttural sound that vibrates in the still night air. He sniffs again, more intensely this time, his nose pressed right into the seam where the door meets the car's frame. And then it happens. The alert. It's not a passive sit, it's aggressive. Rico rears up slightly and begins to scratch furiously at the door panel, his claws making a sharp, frantic scraping sound against the metal. He barks, a single explosive report that shatters the silence. It's an unmistakable signal, a declaration. It's here. This is the first major irony of the night. The driver's assertion of his constitutional right to refuse a search is precisely what led to the canine call. And the canine's alert has now given the officers something far more powerful than consent: probable cause. The legal threshold has been met. Of course, this is where the debate begins. Legal scholars and civil rights advocates have long argued about the reliability of canine units. They point to studies showing that some dogs have alarmingly high rates of false positives. They talk about the clever hands effect, a phenomenon where a dog might be cueing off its handler's subconscious body language rather than an actual scent. Is Rico truly smelling contraband, or is he just a very good boy who knows how to please Officer Davis, who already suspects something is wrong? For John Smith, this academic debate is a luxury he doesn't have. For Officer Miller, Rico's alert is a green light. Miller walks back to the driver window. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to step out of the vehicle." The man's shoulders slump in defeat. The fight has drained out of him. He slowly opens the door and gets out, his expensive tracksuit looking utterly absurd under the circumstances. Miller cuffs him, the click of the metal echoing the finality of the moment. "You are not under arrest at this time," Miller recites, a necessary formality. "You are being detained for officer safety while we conduct a search of your vehicle." A second irony. The driver is now in handcuffs all because of a cracked taillight he probably never even knew about. A tiny piece of broken plastic has unraveled his entire world. And as Miller pats him down, finding nothing but a wallet, keys, and a high-end smartphone, he glances at the car. The search is about to begin. Rico's alert wasn't general, it was specific. The rear passenger door. Not the trunk, not under the seats, but a single door panel. It's an oddly specific location. It suggests whatever is hidden isn't just tossed in the car, it's integrated into it. It's a secret with a specific address. The man stands silently by the cruiser, watching as Miller and Davis prepare to peel back the layers of his car and his life. The highway is dark, the world keeps moving, but on this small stretch of gravel, time has stopped. And the scratch marks on the car door are a testament to a dog's nose, and the simple, terrifying fact that some secrets can't stay buried. Awaiting continue.
With John Smith secured and watching from the shoulder of the road, Officer Miller begins his search. He has probable cause thanks to Rico's very enthusiastic announcement. This legal authority stems from a principle known as the Carroll Doctrine, or the automobile exception. Established way back in the 1920s, it gives officers the right to search a vehicle without a warrant if they have probable cause to believe it contains evidence of a crime. The reasoning is twofold. Cars are mobile, so evidence can easily disappear while a warrant is sought, and people have a lesser expectation of privacy in their cars than in their homes.
For Miller, this means he has a green light to go through this tired sedan with a fine-tooth comb. He starts with the passenger cabin, a methodical sweep. He's not just looking for contraband, he's looking for context, for anything that either supports or contradicts the driver's flimsy story of visiting a sick aunt. The first thing he confirms is a stunning lack of personal effects. There's no suitcase in the back seat, no duffel bag, no stray jacket. In the glove compartment, he finds the rental agreement, folded neatly next to the owner's manual. But there's no change of clothes, no toiletries, not even a stray charging cable for the high-end phone the driver was carrying. It's the first glaring inconsistency. You're driving across states to see a sick relative, a trip that implies at least an overnight stay, yet you've packed absolutely nothing. It's like a ghost is driving this car. The absence of luggage is more damning than a trunk full of it. Next, Miller checks the trunk. Popping it open, he's met with the smell of new rubber and grease. The spare tire is in its place, but sitting next to it is a brand new professional-grade toolkit, not the cheap emergency kit that comes with the car. This is a serious set, with socket wrenches, pry bars, and a cordless drill with a full set of bits. This is the night's most unusual detail so far. Why would a man on a road trip in a rental car be carrying tools that could disassemble the vehicle he's driving? It doesn't compute. It's like finding a full set of surgical scalpels in a first aid kit. These aren't tools for changing a tire, they're for modification, for construction, or, more likely, for deconstruction. Back in the main cabin, his flashlight beam dances across the interior. He checks under the seats. Nothing but dust bunnies and a forgotten French fry. Then he returns to the glove compartment, giving it a second, more thorough look. Tucked behind the rental papers, he finds a small, innocuous-looking bundle held together by a rubber band. It's a stack of 5 prepaid credit cards, all from different banks, and 3 burner phones, still in their plastic wrappers. This is the trifecta of paranoia. Burner phones and anonymous credit cards are the currency of someone desperate to avoid a paper trail. The sick aunt story is now not just flimsy, it's insulting. This is where the search intensifies. Miller has peeled back the first layer of deceit, revealing a core of pure intention. This driver isn't just a nervous guy, he's a professional, someone who has taken deliberate, expensive steps to remain invisible. The toolkit, the phones, the lack of luggage, it all points to a man not traveling to a destination, but fleeing from one. Now, Miller turns his full attention to the spot where Rico alerted, the rear passenger side door. At first glance, it looks perfectly normal. The panel is gray plastic, matching the rest of the worn interior. He runs his hand over it. The texture is uniform. He tries the window, the lock, they both work. But Rico wasn't wrong. A dog like that doesn't signal on a ghost scent. Miller gets closer, his flashlight beam tracing every millimeter of the door panel's edge. He's looking for tool marks, for misaligned seams, for anything out of place. And that's when he sees it. Near the bottom, almost hidden by the shadow of the door sill, are 2 screw heads. They're Phillips head screws, but they're not the standard factory-issued kind. These are shiny and new. Their metallic sheen, a stark contrast to the dull, slightly rusted hardware elsewhere in the car. This is a critical moment. Miller knows he has probable cause to search, but this often leads to a legal gray area. Experts still argue over the scope of the automobile exception. How far can an officer go? Can they start ripping a car apart based on a canine alert? Generally, yes, if the search is targeted at the area of the alert and is deemed reasonable. But what constitutes reasonable? Prying open a door panel could be seen as damaging property. If he finds nothing, the department could be on the hook for repairs, and it could complicate the case. But those new screws are an invitation. They're a sign that this panel is designed to be removed. Miller goes back to the trunk and retrieves a Phillips head screwdriver from the driver's own toolkit, a little touch of irony that isn't lost on him. He returns to the door. The screws turn easily, almost as if they were recently installed and not meant to be permanent.
With the screws out, he carefully uses a small pry bar, also from the toolkit, to gently work the panel loose. The plastic clips pop one by one, the sound sharp and definitive in the quiet night. He pulls the panel away. Behind it, there's the usual assembly of wires and window mechanisms. For a second, a flicker of doubt crosses Miller's mind. Did he get it wrong? Did Rico have a false positive? But then he looks down, toward the floor. The carpet by the doorsill feels wrong. It's not soft and pliable like the rest. It's stiff, almost solid. He pushes on it. It doesn't give. He pulls at the edge of the carpet, peeling it back from the floor. There's no metal underneath. Instead, his flashlight illuminates a perfectly cut dark metal plate, flush with the car's true floor. It's held in place by 4 hexagonal bolts. It's not part of the car. It's an addition. It's the lid to a box hidden in a place no one would ever think to look. The search has just gone from peeling back layers to discovering a whole new dimension. And whatever's inside that box is the reason for the burner phones, the toolkit, and the terrifying empty calm of the man who calls himself John Smith.
The discovery of the metal plate is a game changer. This isn't just a stash spot, it's a professionally engineered secret. Miller feels a jolt of adrenaline, the kind that sharpens your focus to a pinpoint. This is no amateur job. The plate is seamlessly integrated into the floor, its edges so perfectly flush that only by peeling back the carpet could it be found. The hexagonal bolts that secure it are another giveaway. They require a specific tool, an Allen wrench, not a common screwdriver or socket. It's a deliberate choice, another layer of security designed to frustrate a cursory search. Miller walks back to the trunk, a grim smile on his face. He rummages through the driver's own high-end toolkit, the one that seemed so out of place just minutes ago. And there it is, a full set of Allen wrenches nestled in a neat plastic case. It's a bizarre twist. The fugitive has provided the very keys to his own undoing. This isn't just irony, it's a form of cosmic justice delivered with a set of German-engineered hand tools. With the correct wrench in hand, Miller kneels back down beside the open car door. The bolts are tight. He has to put his weight into it, his knuckles scraping against the door sill. One by one, they give way with a reluctant squeal of metal on metal. The sound seems to echo the driver's own silent scream as he watches from the roadside, his charade crumbling bolt by bolt. With the last bolt out, Miller slides the Allen wrench under the edge of the plate and carefully pries it up. It's heavy, far heavier than a simple piece of sheet metal. It's thick, reinforced steel, probably a 1/4 inch thick. This compartment wasn't built to hide a few ounces of something illicit. It was built to be a vault. It was built to protect something of immense value or immense danger. He lifts the plate away and sets it on the gravel. The humid night air rushes into the void, and with it comes a smell. It's not the sharp scent of drugs or the metallic tang of firearms. It's the smell of old paper, of stale, recycled air, and something else, a faint, almost clinical antiseptic odor. It's the smell of a place that's been sealed for a long, long time. Miller shines his flashlight into the opening. He's looking at a cavity, a hidden compartment, what law enforcement calls a trap. It's about 2 feet long, a foot wide, and maybe 6 inches deep. The interior is lined with what looks like gray, sound-dampening foam. This trap wasn't just hidden, it was insulated, designed to mask sounds and smells. This level of craftsmanship is rare. You see it in high-level trafficking operations. The cost to install a compartment like this can run into the thousands of dollars. Whoever built it was a master. And inside, nestled in the foam, are the trap's contents. It's not what Miller was expecting. There are no bricks of cocaine, no stacks of illegal firearms. The reality is somehow more mundane and infinitely more chilling. On one side, there are stacks of cash. Not messy piles, but neat, bank-wrapped bundles of $100 bills. A quick estimate puts it at well over $50,000. But it's the other side of the compartment that truly seizes his attention. There, laid out with surgical precision, is a collection of documents. Miller carefully lifts them out. They're passports, 4 of them, each from a different country: Canada, Ireland, Australia,
and the United States. He opens the US passport. The photo is of the driver, but the name is different. Not John Smith. This one is Michael Peterson. He opens the Canadian one. Same face, different name again. David Chin. The Irish and Australian passports follow the same pattern, each with a new identity. This is a ghost kid, a complete set of tools for disappearing and becoming someone else anywhere in the world. Next to the passports is a stack of driver's licenses from 5 different states, each with the driver's photo but a different name and date of birth. There are also birth certificates, social security cards, all high-quality forgeries. This isn't just a man on the run, he's a man who can cease to exist at a moment's notice and be reborn as someone new. The existence of such a sophisticated trap raises a complex legal question. The theory of consciousness of guilt is a rule of evidence that allows a jury to infer a defendant's guilt from certain actions that show they knew they were in trouble. Things like fleeing the scene, using a false name, or hiding evidence. A hidden compartment is the physical embodiment of this theory. Defense attorneys often argue that their client might not have known about the trap, especially in a rental or recently purchased used car. It's a defense strategy known as the "I didn't know it was there" defense. But in this case, the presence of the driver's own face on the fake IDs inside the trap makes that argument an almost impossible sell. Among the documents, Miller finds something else. A small, leather-bound notebook. He flips it open. The pages are filled with neat, cramped handwriting. But it's not a diary. It's a ledger. Columns of numbers, dates, and what appear to be single-letter initials. It looks like a meticulous record of financial transactions, but without any context, it's indecipherable. And then, at the very bottom of the compartment, he finds one last odd item. A single, pristine white feather. It's a large one, maybe from a gull or a large dove. It's clean, perfect, and lying by itself in a corner of the foam-lined box. What is a single feather doing in a fugitive's meticulously packed escape kit? It makes no sense. It has no practical value. It's not a weapon, it's not a currency, it's not an ID. It's a ghost of a detail, a piece of poetry in a box of cold, hard prose. It's a clue to the man, not the crime. And for some reason, it's the most unsettling discovery of the night. It suggests a story, a motive, something more personal and complex than just a man running from the law. Miller stands up, holding the bag of passports and the notebook. He looks at the contents of the trap, then over at the man standing silently in handcuffs. He's not John Smith. He's not Michael Peterson or David Chen. He's a ghost who was careful enough to build a rolling vault but left behind the tools to open it. A third and final irony for the moment. The secret compartment has been found, but the man's true secret, his real name and the reason he's running, is still locked away. The trap has been sprung, but the ghost is still a ghost.
The discovery inside the hidden compartment transforms the roadside stop into a full-blown federal investigation. Officer Miller knows he's holding something far bigger than a simple drug bust or a parole absconder. The collection of forged passports, the multiple identities, the huge sum of cash. It's a pre-packaged life on the run. This isn't the kid of a common criminal. It's the kid of a ghost. Someone with the resources and foresight to orchestrate a complete disappearance. He lays out the contents on the hood of his cruiser, the blue and red lights washing over the evidence in a surreal glow. The passports, the driver's licenses, the burner phones, each item is a lie, a carefully crafted piece of fiction. It's a phantom life built on high-quality paper and encrypted data. The sheer professionalism of the forgeries is astounding. These aren't cheap fakes you buy in a back alley. They have watermarks, holographic overlays, and properly encoded magnetic strips. This kind of work requires a specialized and highly illegal skill set, suggesting our driver isn't just a runner, but part of a much larger, more sophisticated network. The driver, who has been watching all of this in stony silence, is now a man stripped of his armor. His expensive tracksuit now looks less like a sign of wealth and more like a costume. As Miller bags the evidence, he glances over at the man. The mask of calm is gone, replaced by a profound and unsettling emptiness. He's not defiant, not angry, not pleading. He's just vacant. It's the look of a man who has played his last card and lost. This scenario brings up a fascinating and often debated legal issue, the concept of willful blindness. This doctrine, sometimes called the ostrich instruction, is used in court when a defendant claims ignorance about a criminal activity they were involved in. The law says you can't deliberately shield yourself from the truth to avoid liability. If you have a strong suspicion that something is illegal and you purposefully avoid learning more, you can be held just as responsible as if you had full knowledge. Looking at the pristine forgeries and the meticulously packed kit, it's clear the driver couldn't possibly claim he didn't know what was in the trap. But what about the person who rented him the car? What about the mechanic who installed the compartment? This doctrine allows prosecutors to pursue the entire network, arguing that anyone who profited from this ghost journey was willfully blind to its criminal nature. Miller focuses on the tangible evidence. The cash is straightforward. It will be seized under civil asset forfeiture laws, a controversial practice where the government can take property suspected of being involved in a crime, even if the owner is never convicted. The real key, however, is the man himself. He has no legitimate ID on him. He gave a fake name, and the IDs in the trap are all forgeries. Right now, he's a John Doe, a phantom in custody. The only way to unmask a ghost is with something he can't change, his biology. Miller calls for a mobile fingerprinting unit to be brought to the scene. While he waits, he examines the other items from the trap. He pages through the leather-bound notebook again. The columns of numbers and initials are infuriatingly opaque. Without a key, they are meaningless. Is it a list of contacts, a record of payments, a schedule? It's a puzzle box with no solution. And then there's the feather. That one stark white feather. It's such a bizarre outlier. Miller picks up the evidence bag containing it. Under the glare of his flashlight, he sees something he missed before. A tiny, almost microscopic dark spot near the quill. He squints. It looks like a speck of dried blood. It's so small it's almost certainly invisible to the naked eye, but it's there. A pristine white feather marred by a single drop of darkness. This odd detail now shifts from being poetic to being deeply sinister. It feels less like a memento and more like a trophy. The mobile fingerprinting unit arrives. It's a small portable device that connects directly to the FBI's massive national database, the Integrated Automated Fingerprinting Identification System. It can return a match in minutes. This is the moment of truth. The officer handling the scanner takes John Doe's right hand. The man doesn't resist. He places his thumb on the glass screen. A red light scans across it. Then the index finger, then the next. The process is quick, clinical, and final. The prints are uploaded. The search begins, comparing the unique whorls and ridges of this man's fingers against millions of records, from criminal arrests, military service, government employment, and more. The air is thick with anticipation. Miller watches the screen of the connected laptop. The progress bar inches across the screen. This is the digital unmasking. For all his planning, for all his fake passports and hidden compartments, it all comes down to the unchangeable patterns on his skin. It's the ultimate irony of the modern fugitive. You can buy a new face, a new name, a new history, but you can't buy new fingerprints. The search completes. A file appears on the screen. There's a mugshot, taken years ago. The face is younger, thinner, but the eyes are the same. And below the name is the name. Not John Smith, not Michael Peterson. His name is Julian Voss. And below the name is a flag. A bright red banner that makes every cop in a 20-foot radius take a sharp breath. The flag reads, Armed and Dangerous, U.S. Marshals Service, National Fugitive, Homicide Warrant. The ghost has a name. And his story isn't about money or drugs, it's about murder. The cracked tail light, the nervous tick, the canine alert, it all led to this. They haven't just caught a runner. They've caught one of the most wanted men in the country. The man who drives a beat-up Brental but wears a designer tracksuit. The man who hums nursery rhymes when he's cornered. The man who keeps a single, blood-specked white feather as a souvenir. Julian Voss. The mystery of who he is has been solved. But the mystery of what he did has just begun. The name Julian Voss hangs in the air, heavy and cold. The red flag on the mobile scanner screen changes everything. This is no longer a state-level arrest for possession of forged documents. This is the capture of a national fugitive wanted by the U.S. Marshals. Officer Miller looks at the man in handcuffs, at Voss, with new eyes. The quiet, vacant man by the side of the road is not just a ghost, he's a predator. The calculated calm, the professional-grade forgeries, the escape kit, it all clicks into place. This was never about evasion, it was about survival, after a crime so severe it put him on the Marshals' radar. A priority call goes out immediately. The local police are now just temporary custodians. The Marshal Service will be taking over, dispatching a team to transport a fugitive they've likely been hunting for years. The scene on the highway, once a simple traffic stop, is now swarming with activity. Senior officers, detectives, and soon, federal agents will be descending on this small stretch of asphalt. While they wait, the preliminary details from the warrant begin to filter through the system. Julian Voss is wanted in connection with a homicide that took place 2 years ago in a different state, over 1,000 miles away. But it wasn't a simple murder. Voss was a high-level accountant for a powerful tech corporation. The victim was the company's CEO, a charismatic billionaire named Marcus Thorne. Thorne was found dead in his penthouse apartment, not from a gunshot or a stabbing, but from a highly exotic, fast-acting poison that left almost no trace. The crime scene was pristine, wiped clean of any fingerprints or DNA. It was a ghost's work. The case against Voss was entirely circumstantial. He had disappeared the same day Thorne's body was discovered. A forensic audit of the company's finances, initiated after the murder, revealed that Voss had been systematically embezzling millions of dollars over 5 years. He had created a complex web of shell corporations and offshore accounts, a masterpiece of financial deceit. The theory was that Thorne had discovered the fraud and confronted Voss, who then silenced him permanently. Voss, the quiet accountant, the man no one ever noticed, was accused of being a brilliant thief and a cold-blooded killer. This is where the criminal event of this story solidifies. It's a classic case of white-collar crime escalating to ultimate violence. The use of a rare poison is a key detail. It's not a crime of passion, it's a crime of calculation, of precision. It speaks to a mind that is meticulous, patient, and utterly ruthless. The same kind of mind that would build a soundproofed, steel-reinforced hidden compartment in a rental car. The discovery of Voss's identity triggers an immediate legal debate that has raged for decades, the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine. This legal principle states that any evidence obtained as a result of an illegal search or seizure is inadmissible in court. If the initial stop of Voss's car had been ruled unlawful, if a judge decided the cracked taillight was just a flimsy excuse for a fishing expedition with no real basis, then everything that followed, from Rico's sniff to the discovery of the trap and the fingerprints, could be thrown out. Voss's high-powered defense attorneys would almost certainly file a motion to suppress the evidence. They would argue that the entire case was built on a foundation of unconstitutional policing. The fate of the biggest capture of Miller's career would hang on the single, subjective question of whether he had a legitimate reason to pull Voss over for that tiny crack in his taillight. As he contemplates this, he looks back at the evidence laid out on his car. Remember the small, leather-bound notebook from the hidden compartment? With Voss's identity now known, it takes on a chilling new significance. The initials in the ledger are no longer random. They are likely the key to his entire criminal enterprise. The bankers, the forgers, the facilitators who helped him move money and stay hidden. That notebook isn't just a ledger. It's a map of his conspiracy. And then there's the single white feather, the oddest detail of all. With the context of the murder, it transforms from a strange memento into something truly macabre. The victim, Marcus Thorne, was a well-known and eccentric amateur ornithologist.
He kept a large aviary of rare and exotic birds in his penthouse apartment. His favorite, a rare, white-crested cockatoo, was famous in society circles and was often photographed with him. The feather, the pristine white feather with a single speck of dried blood. It couldn't be a coincidence, it's a trophy, a deeply personal and arrogant souvenir taken from the scene of the crime. It's a psychopath's signature, a final, silent boast. It's the one mistake he made, the one piece of the crime scene he took with him. The one thing that ties Julian Voss, the ghost, directly back to the murder of Marcus Thorne. The first irony of this section is the fingerprint. Voss, a man who built an entire life out of being an anonymous entity, was unmasked by the one part of his identity he could never forge or erase. His own skin betrayed him. The second irony is the toolkit. The very tools he carried to maintain his freedom and access his secrets were the same tools Officer Miller used to dismantle his world. He was, in a very real sense, the architect of his own capture. Finally, the greatest irony is the nature of his downfall. A man wanted for a multi-million-dollar fraud and a sophisticated, high-tech murder, a man who outsmarted federal investigators for 2 years, was brought down by a $10 piece of broken plastic on a rental car and a dog's inquisitive nose. His meticulously planned escape, his life as a ghost, was undone by the simplest, most mundane of traffic violations. The grand narrative of his elaborate crime ends on a forgotten highway under the indifferent gaze of flashing blue and red lights, all because he forgot to check his taillight. The ghost is not just unmasked, he's been humanized by his own simple, careless mistake. The arrival of the U.S. Marshals is swift and silent. They don't use sirens. They glide onto the scene in 2 black, unmarked SUVs that absorb the flashing lights of the police cruisers without reflecting them. These men operate with a chilling efficiency, a testament to their single-minded purpose: hunting humans. They don't chit-chat with the local cops, they take command. Julian Voss, the ghost, is their property now. As they lead him away, he gives one last lingering look at the contents of his life spread across the hood of a police car. The passports, the cash, the feather. There's no emotion on his face, just a quiet acknowledgement of the end. The curtain has fallen. In the days and weeks that follow, the full, stunning scope of Voss's story emerges. He wasn't just an accountant who got greedy. He was Marcus Thorne's protege, the quiet genius Thorne had handpicked from a top university and mentored for years. The embezzlement wasn't a sudden act, it was a slow, methodical siphoning, a decade-long act of financial revenge for some perceived slight, some forgotten insult that had festered in Voss's brilliant, twisted mind. He didn't just steal Thorne's money, he bled his empire dry from the inside, a parasite disguised as a loyal son. His 2 years on the run were a masterclass in evasion. He moved through North America like a phantom, using the identities from his ghost kit. He was David Chen, a software developer for 6 months in Vancouver. He was Michael Peterson, a freelance writer for a year in the quiet suburbs of Chicago. He never used credit cards, never had a cell phone in his real name, never stayed in one place long enough to make a friend or attract attention. He paid for everything with the cash from his hidden vault, replenishing it at mysterious intervals. His discipline was absolute. His downfall was, as is so often the case, a moment of simple human error, a lazy turn into a gas station that cracked a plastic taillight cover. With Voss in custody, prosecutors begin the monumental task of building their case. And here they wield one of the most powerful tools in federal law, the charge of conspiracy. The U.S. Code defines conspiracy as an agreement between 2 or more people to commit a crime. The beauty of it for a prosecutor is that you don't have to prove someone was in the room when the murder happened. You just have to prove they took a single, overt act to help the conspiracy succeed. For Voss's network, this means anyone who helped him can be charged. The mechanic who built the trap in the rental car, conspiracy. The forger who created the flawless passports, conspiracy. The person's name on the rental agreement for the car, conspiracy. The Ledger Notebook becomes the roadmap for this prosecution, a list of names and numbers that the FBI's sharpest minds are now working to decipher. But this is where the story takes its final haunting turn. The feather, that strange poetic detail, becomes the most critical piece of evidence. The FBI lab analyzes the microscopic speck of blood on its quill. Everyone expects a match to the victim, Marcus Thorne, or to Voss himself, but it comes back as neither. The DNA belongs to an unknown third person, a person whose genetic profile is not in any database, a true ghost. This single fact shatters the official narrative. Voss may not have acted alone in the murder itself. This brings a chilling new theory to the forefront, one that investigators still debate in hushed tones. Was Julian Voss the true mastermind, or was he just one part of a larger, darker machine? Some now believe he was a client, not the sole operator. They theorize the existence of a clandestine organization that offers a unique service to the wealthy and desperate, not just financial extraction and disappearance, but the physical elimination of obstacles. Voss, the brilliant accountant, handled the money, but perhaps a different specialist, a professional killer, handled the poison. A killer who was in that penthouse with Voss, a killer who accidentally left behind a trace of their own DNA on the killer's trophy. The Ledger Notebook, once seen as the key to unraveling his network, becomes another monument to his meticulous planning. It's not just a simple code, it's written in a complex, multi-layered cipher that stumps even the most advanced decryption software. The numbers and initials shift in meaning based on a key known only to Voss, and Voss isn't talking. He sits in a federal maximum security prison, a man who has accepted his fate, but he will not give up his secrets. He has been captured, but his shadow network remains intact, protected by a final wall of silence and cryptographic genius. The ghost is in a cage, but his allies are still out there, ghosts in the wind. And that is the final chilling irony. Julian Voss, a man who dedicated his life to being invisible, is now infamous. His face is on every news channel. His story is a national obsession. But in becoming a spectacle, he has performed his last magic trick. He has drawn all the light onto himself, allowing the other figures who stood with him in the darkness to slip away, unnoticed. The book is closed on Julian Voss, but the larger story, the story of the people who make ghosts, is far from over. And somewhere out there, a person with a rare DNA profile might still have a single white feather, a reminder of a perfect crime that was undone by the most imperfect, ordinary luck. The tale of Julian Voss is a stark reminder that the most intricate plans can be unraveled by the simplest threads, a truth that echoes in the quiet hum of a police cruiser and the silent judgment of a dog's nose. It's a story about the duality of human nature, the capacity for brilliant, meticulous planning existing alongside the vulnerability of a single careless mistake. We see how a life built on lies requires an impossible level of perfection, and how justice sometimes isn't found in a grand confrontation, but on the lonely shoulder of a desolate highway. The world is full of ghosts like Voss, men and women who walk among us shrouded in secrets, their stories waiting to be torn open by a chance encounter or a flicker of red and blue light. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the shadows tonight. Your presence here, lending your time and attention, is what makes this community so special. If this story held your attention and gave you a chill or two, a like is always appreciated, and commenting with your thoughts helps more than you know. Sharing the video is the best way to help new listeners find their way into our late-night circle. There are countless more cases filed away, each with its own dark twists and haunting questions, and I look forward to exploring them with you again soon.